All right. I think we're here. Everybody, you guys can hear okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Excellent.
We're going to talk to the representatives from Fresno State, Jacob Spolmer. He is a big offensive lineman from Brentwood, California. And Alzillian Hamilton is a defensive back from Hayward, California. Let's start with, I guess they call him AZ. But the name here on the paper says Alzillian Hamilton. And you can explain to us where that came to be.
From an article, a kid, his name was Zillion. And, you know, it was an inspiration to my dad to, like, changing his life and everything. You know, it was an impact on his life. And then all my siblings, we got AL in front of our name. So he just combined it together and made my name.
That's awesome. With Fresno State, Utah State, those two schools have an opportunity to compete this year. We're going to see each other in kind of late November. Aggies will make the trip to Fresno. It seems like it's been a little bit since the Aggies have played Fresno State. But when Utah State makes that trip, it's going to be later in the season. But generally speaking, what can Utah State expect when they go to play a game there at Bulldog Stadium?
Expect 4 hard quarters of hard football, playing against a physical team.
And how would you explain it, Spelmer?
I would say a tough environment. So our fans are pretty rowdy. They're going to be loud all 4 quarters, and it's a fun experience.
You had an injury situation that kept you out of football for a little bit of time. As I look back on it in 2023, into the next season, and what was the nature of that, first of all, that you were out so long?
It was an ACL and MCL tear. Took, I believe, 10.5 months. But, yeah, it was a time for me to get away from football and just watch it instead of playing it. It was a different environment, but I think I learned a lot from it.
You are, it lists here, 290 pounds.
Sure.
If that's accurate, that's probably slightly, I mean, does anybody ever call you a undersized offensive lineman?
Yeah, I've always played at 275. It's been undersized, but I never let it stop me. But this year moving to center, I got to put on a couple more pounds.
With Fresno State, you guys went through a bit of a coaching change. You had the interim situation, then everybody seems like Coach Hentz is doing a great job. Let's just make it full time. What's that relationship been like with him, and what have you kind of seen that him kind of step into that role and kind of keep leading the team moving forward? AZ, we'll start with you.
I'll say with Coach Hentz, just the energy and then the vibes of the team. You know, he's been telling us we got to be more stronger and physical, and that's what he actually focused on, and he want that out of our team this year.
You had, I assume, Jeff Tedford brought both of you to the program. Would that be true?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was one of the best coaches we've had in this league.
Great coach.
And then he's had some sickness problems. Is he
Unfortunately.
around the program? Do you see him much anymore?
He comes back, I say, like once a month. He shows face. Him and Pat Hill. They come back. It's always good to see
Pat Hill,
coaches like
too.
that.
That's awesome.
Pat Hill, man.
Legendary.
He gets up out of his chair to come out here, man. It's good to see him. He's a great coach, great person.
Another item for AZ. You went into the portal for a while.
Yeah.
What made you come back?
I never got in the portal just to leave. I wasn't leaving for money. I just wanted to face some top receivers, up my draft stock. But my whole process during the portal, I talked to Coach Entz through my whole process. And so, we built a relationship over the time. Then all the coaches that came there and everything, they all talked to me too. Coach B talked to me. He reached out to me. It was just building a bond with me over time, and I just wanted to come back to Fresno and finish what I started.
With the relationship that Fresno State and Utah State now have, they've been in this conference together for a while, but now they're going to move on to the Pac-12 in the future. Just your guys' observations on that and what the talk is around Fresno generally about that move into the Pac-12 in the future.
It's just bigger than more than just football. It's good for the fans too, good for the Valley, good for Utah State, wherever y'all guys are from. But it's just good to see their commitment, all their love finally pay off, and to elevate.
Anything additional to add on that, AZ?
I'll say good recognition for the Mountain West teams to go up to the Pac-12 and make an impact in that conference, I'll come back and come check out some games for sure.
Did you guys play in the games in 22 and 23?
So
Yeah.
Both of you? Did
Yeah.
you just remember anything about the Aggies from those?
I'll say what I remember is the toughest receiver I guarded was Jalen Royals to this day, and I ain't gonna lie. He helped me up my game, and they did compete with us that whole game though. But my boy Mojo had got that diving pick and saved us.
And for you, Spomer, any memories from that game or facing Utah State in the past?
Yeah, tough, competitive. You guys have some big guys up front. Play hard all 4 quarters. Didn't stop once. And it's always fun to compete against guys like that.
Well, thank you guys for stopping by, and best of luck this upcoming season.
Thank you,
thank
sir.
you.
You too.
All right. Okay. It's like we're good to go. Nevada.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, here from Nevada at Media Day is Chubba Purdy, quarterback from Queen Creek, Arizona, and also Thomas Whitty, big defensive tackle from Anchorage, Alaska. And Purdy is also from, technically, Nebraska, Florida State.
Yes, sir.
First.
Yep.
So let's talk about there. Didn't they treat you right?
Yeah, Florida State, it was crazy. I mean, I went there. I was there for like a year and a half, 2 years. Just dealt with a lot of injuries there. Had 4 collarbone surgeries in a year. So just dealt with a lot there. So I left, went to Nebraska, played there for 2 years, broke my right ankle my first year there, and then had double groin surgery the next year. So I dealt with a ton of injuries in the past, and then came here to Nevada. So hopefully, this last one's a big turnaround. So.
Physical therapists love you.
Oh man, I'm like,
Spent a lot of
I'm
time.
back. Yeah. So.
What's I know, like, we've just gone through the spring ball's through. Now you're starting to do some stuff, just more weight room stuff here in the summer. But generally, how's the team feeling about approaching this new season? Obviously, last year probably didn't go how you guys wanted it, but it's a fresh start. It's a new opportunity. How's kind of the feeling of the team kind of approaching this 2025 season? And we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think we're excited. We're excited to play the competition that we have on our schedule. It's pretty cool being, before conference realignment that we get to play these teams before, this landscape changes. This is the Mountain West I'm used to, and this is the Mountain West I'm finishing with. So I'm pretty excited for that.
You are a 2-year starter.
Yes, sir.
On the,
I think 4-year.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
I just read about the last.
Okay, my fault.
So there was not a game last year against the Aggies. I remember reading a game you had several tackles. I think it was 2023.
Yes, sir.
Against Utah State.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of the offense you were going against in that game?
Yeah, I think that they were. It's a long time ago. It's like 2 seasons ago. Don't exactly remember the offense ins and outs, but they're a cool team to play against. I also really enjoyed your guys' crowd. You guys were pretty creative with some of the stuff you guys were saying off the sideline.
Well, our head coach a few years ago moved it so the crowd students were yelling at you.
Yeah, right behind
You
us.
knew that,
Oh yeah, we were right. They were right behind us, and they're really creative. I'll give it to the Utah State fans.
Now, so when these two teams face each other, it's going to be kind of early November, and you'll be in Logan again. It could be cool, but who knows? I mean, early November, who knows what it's going to be like in Logan,
Yeah.
but it's probably cooler. But Reno and Logan really aren't that much different. And when did you arrive on campus in Reno, Chubba, for the Wolfpack?
I came in end of January of 24, so it was. I mean, there's snow here and there. Like, if it snows there, it'll melt like within a day or two. So it's not like it sticks, and it's not like heavy, thick snow.
So weather-wise, it's probably you've been around that for a little bit now.
Oh,
so.
for sure, especially in Nebraska. I mean, that weather over there
That's
is crazy.
true.
Yeah,
That's true.
So,
If you go through a Nebraska season,
Oh,
you're going to
you're-
go through just about anything.
exactly. So
A couple of more questions for Chubba. You broke our hearts, you guys, when you took Herschel Turner away from us. This guy can run. Now, I assume you saw that in spring.
oh, for sure, Herschel's gonna be a dog.
Yeah, the guy's a stud.
Yeah, he's a stud.
Yeah.
Have you? Did it work out that he might be the starter?
Yeah, shoot, in spring he balled out. We have our running back room is really loaded. We got like 5 or 6 dudes in there that could play. And, Herschel had a great spring, and I love how young Herschel is. I forget how young he is because he's so mature for his age.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this guy, I mean, he's going to be so legit, so we're excited for him.
And one other question for you. Chubba cannot be your given first name.
No, it is not.
Okay. Let's find out what that really is, and then tell us how it became Chubba.
So when I was 1 year old, I weighed 38 pounds on my first birthday, so I was huge. So my dad gave me the nickname Chubba. You would have thought I was an O lineman, but and then my real name is actually Preston. So
Okay.
yes, sir.
Thomas, let me ask you. Just you've been around this team for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Choate, what he's doing for the team, kind of how you've observed him, kind of go through this process now with a couple of seasons under his belt, trying to get Nevada football going in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Choate, he's a great leader, and he's for sure, one of the main reasons why I decided to come back to the Wolfpack, especially, when he first showed up, was graduating, I wasn't really planning on staying at Nevada. I was thinking about the portal and all that kind of stuff. But really, when I got around Coach Cho and his staff, they grew on me so much, and I believe in what he's building, and he's a great coach.
20 years ago, he was a graduate assistant at Utah State. I don't know if he talks about that.
Yeah, he does talk. He talks about his
Yeah, he
past quite a
does.
bit.
Yeah.
Been a lot of great schools.
Oh, he's been everywhere. Everywhere we
Yeah.
go, it's almost like, oh, Choke coached here.
Yeah.
So it's awesome.
That's great. So he brings a lot of different experience to the table. So excited to see what happens with Nevada this season, and best of luck for you guys. And we'll look forward to seeing you guys in Logan in November.
Yes, sir. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Thank
All
you,
right.
guys.
Thanks, guys.
At Media Day in Las Vegas with New Mexico, Richard Pierce, a big senior offensive lineman, 311 pounds, and then Gabe Lopez, edge defender, 6'2", 246 pounds. Let's start with you, Richard, because let's just deal with it. We took your head coach away from you
Yes,
guys.
sir. Sadly.
Yeah. Tell me about your year with him.
Oh my God, man, that was one of the great, like one of my best seasons of college football, and I literally owe it all to Coach Mendenhall. He just taught me so much about being a true student of the game, being a true leader, learning things on and off the field. I can go on for hours about the great things that Coach Mendenhall has done for my career, and those are things that I still implement to my life, even to this day, and I'll do it forever.
I guess, Gabe, similar question for you. Just that experience with Coach Mendenhall and his staff, and trying to really kickstart things for the New Mexico program.
Mm-hmm.
How'd that go?
No, yeah, it was definitely a great experience. I learned a lot that I'm still going to be using, like Richard said, moving forward, but not with just with football, with life. Well, me and him talked a lot. We focused on, like, leadership. He gave me a lot of different books to read, just how to improve my leadership and how to improve myself in every aspect of life, not even just football.
And if I could piggyback off of that, just as both of you, as seniors, kind of stepping into leadership roles as players and as friends, as teammates, with a lot of change that did happen, and just trying to rally who was there and try to move forward with the program. What's that been like for you, kind of stepping into that larger leadership opportunity for you guys?
Oh, well, mainly it's just been about bringing those guys along because, most of the guys that we brought in, those guys have already started. They've already played a pretty good amount of football, and so now it's just about building that chemistry, and you have to build that chemistry off the field. And, offensive-wise and offensive line-wise, we usually build that chemistry through food, like I've been telling everybody. We just go out, we eat, laugh, joke, just down some food, a lot of food.
You were the team captain, or a team captain, I'm told.
Yes, sir.
You never left the field, apparently, 904 snaps.
Yes, sir.
So that led the team.
Yes, sir.
Tell me about that experience.
With the training that we did under Coach Mendenhall, I didn't even realize that I was taking that many snaps. But that just goes to show how great of a leader he was. I never even realized that I didn't start to hear about the stat until after the season.
Same for you. I mean, your experience in the system.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, I was playing a lot of snaps under Mendenhall, like you said. That training we did was rigorous, but at the end of the day, it was worth it.
You've got a new coach, Coach Eck, big guy, larger-than-life personality. That's got to be a pretty interesting contrast from what you had with Coach Mendenhall. What's the relationship been so far with Coach Eck and just kind of how he's trying to put his own thumbprint on how New Mexico football should be done?
No, yeah. Since the day I met Coach Eck, I knew I was going to really like him and really want to play with him. Like you said, he's a bigger guy. He played O-line, so he got some real big focus on the trenches, which is like a lot different than like most coaches. They really worried about like the flashy parts and stuff. And Coach Eck has really been taking care of the trenches, and he's been like really emphasizing like the grit and the effort that we're going to need on both the O-line and D-line. And I feel like that emphasis has been big as a defensive lineman.
You spent 3 years at Washington State.
Yes,
Gabe.
sir.
Why did you leave there?
I just went through 2 coaching changes while I was there during my time, and then one injury, and then I just thought it'd be best to try somewhere new.
Your time in Albuquerque and just kind of seeing how I know there's change and there's turnover. Bronco was only there for 1 year. Now you got another coach that's coming in. But there's opportunity that presents itself too when that kind of stuff happens. How are you seeing kind of the team kind of move forward and kind of rally together to put your own stamp on things for this upcoming season?
Kind of the same as I said, just building that chemistry, and we have a really great coaching staff, and our staff, they do a really good job of like implementing certain things throughout the week to make sure that we always take that necessary time to step away from the football aspect and to step into more of a personal one-on-one relationship with each individual guy on the team.
I have to think that when these two teams meet, Utah State and New Mexico, in late October, this has to be one of the more intriguing games on the Mountain West schedule because of some of the change, the coaching, the players that have moved around and stuff like that. What do you expect that stadium will be like on October 25th when you guys meet?
Just go ahead, Gabe.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good atmosphere. I feel like there's a lot of people in New Mexico that were really pissed off about how things ended after Bronco said he was going to be around for a little while, and then just one season he was gone. So I think they're going to show up and they're going to hear it over there.
Anything else that you might add?
Oh yeah, just that I find like that's gonna be a really fun environment because we got lifelong friends on those teams and even those coaches, great guys, and I feel like they're gonna have a great team, and so are we. So yeah, really fun.
All right, guys, thank you so much. New Mexico, excited to see what happens on October 25th when these two teams face each other. So thanks so much for spending some time, and good luck today.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
gone on, first of all, to Arkansas State. Now he's at Oklahoma.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit after he departed from Utah State, and just checking in on me. But I'm sure he's doing real well over at Oklahoma, and that's a really great opportunity for him.
This is a team that has a lot of mystery about it.
Mm-hmm.
Coach was, that's to put it mildly, Coach was felt pretty strongly, I'm going to shut the spring down because I don't want people tampering with my players. I don't want everybody to really know what I have. You guys know what you have. So for those of us that are on the outside looking in, excited to see what we see coming up next month, what can you tell us so far about how things have been progressing under Coach Bronco Mendenhall?
I mean, we just been building a great culture, and the team we have playmakers all around the board, and I mean, offense and defense and special teams. Excited to go out there and show you guys, and I know you guys been eagerly waiting to see, and I know spring was a little different without having anybody out there and stuff, but I felt like it really helped us lock in and, just focus on each other and, get closer and build a bond.
And I'll kind of pipe in here offensively. I mean, we got a lot of playmakers. I'm really excited to be able to get the ball in their hands and let them go make some things happen. And so I'm excited for Cash Valley and the other Utah State fans to really see offensively what we got, because I'm super excited about it.
Coach Mendenhall, when he was introduced in December, said, somebody asked him a question, okay, what kind of offense you going to run and this kind of stuff? And he said, no, I determine what we've got talent-wise, and then we figure out the schemes. So I guess that came in spring football. Anything you can tell us about that now?
Yeah, because you definitely don't want to come into and bring a scheme into the players,
right.
And if the players don't fit that scheme, then there's going to be problems. So you definitely got to come in, kind of evaluate what you have and what's going to be the best fit for Utah State and what's going to be best offensively to be able to be effective. And so we've got that process is obviously already done, and we've got the pieces, and we've got a great scheme, and we're feeling very good offensively.
Can you tell me the first 10 plays against Texas El Paso?
I tell you right now, but I think they might get a hold of this recording, and then we'd be in trouble.
Okay, never mind.
I know Coach and his staff, they're really unified in their purpose and what they're trying to do, and he's very high on character and building a program and having a certain system in place. How has that been accepted by the team so far? It's one thing to say it in a press conference. Mm-hmm. It's something else to do that through a spring practice, and now you're through your summer drills. Like, how is that being received from the players, and how he's trying to kind of set a new tone for Utah State?
Well, I mean, you look at his resume, and obviously it works. So everybody bought into what he's been having us do, and just, obviously we want to win. So all this hard work is, doesn't mean nothing if we don't win. So we just believe in Coach Bronco's ways and just going as he says.
Gabe, you spent a couple of years at Hawaii, if I understand this correctly.
Yes, sir.
And then you ended up in New Mexico State with Coach Dreiling. You have a bachelor's degree in interdisciplinary studies. You're going for another one in integrated studies. Can you tell us what either one of those mean and what it's going to lead to in your
so it's
future life?
Integrated studies is a little mix of sociology and early childhood development. So I'm just kind of I liked it, learning how people's brains work and react in social interaction. So, but I would like to be a college coach once I'm done with football.
Did you play much at Hawaii?
No, I didn't see the field while I was there.
Okay.
Bryson, let me ask you about you talk about this is going to be an offense with a lot of playmakers and it's going to be explosive. Mm-hmm. Great some really dynamic wide receivers last year, but they've graduated. So there's a lot of new guys trying to kind of fill their spot there. There was some running backs that were in the mix last year. Now, some of them are gone. So there's some newer guys trying to fill those roles. Having so many new faces and a new approach, is that refreshing, or is it just a good challenge in front of us to try to create something new?
I'd say it's a little bit of both. You bring in, it is a new challenge, but sometimes those challenges can be refreshing. You're able to kind of see new players and the experience and the things that they've learned technique-wise, and then you just learn so much when you have a bunch of new guys there. And, we got a lot of playmakers, like I said before, and with all those guys that came in, they've also been around a lot of football as well, and, it's going to be fun.
There's no way – oh, excuse me.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say I didn't mention tight ends because you've got returning tight ends.
Yes.
There's not a lot of turnover there.
Yes, not a whole lot of turnover there. We've got our guys, and yeah, they've been busting their tail each and every day, and I'm excited to be able to get the big guys the ball as well.
Would you agree there's no way you could have expected what's happened in your career and the football player, going back to the U of U and so forth, and up to today?
Yeah, no, it really has been crazy. Just a unique experience, and I'm blessed to be able to have the career that I've had, starting as a walk-on and, working my way up to be able to get on the field, playing some big-time games at Utah, making the decision to leave, and also for things really not to go my way. And, I've learned a lot throughout the process, and, I'm just blessed to be in the spot that I am today, and I'm very excited for this season.
Tell us about the offensive line.
Offensive line, feel great about them. We got two big guys, athletic on the end, and we got three guys that really have got a lot of chemistry of playing ball together. We added a new center, and so it'd be interesting to see how he develops throughout fall camp. But based off what the coaches have been telling me and what he did at Purdue, it sounds very intriguing. And you want to talk about a guy that loves ball. I mean, I've never seen a center like this in my life. I've played with a lot of centers, and that dude, he's smart. And so I'm excited to see how everything kind of comes together, adding him into it.
Gabe, that front seven for Utah State, there's some guys with experience like you, some guys who have kind of been waiting for their opportunity that are going to get it. There's also some transfers and younger guys coming in. How is that front seven developing in your mind?
Oh, man, our front seven is that's the bread and butter right there for me, especially in the our new interior guys we got. We got Tyree Morris that's going to be playing the 4-eye a lot, and he transferred in from Lafayette, and he's a big guy making us look a little bigger. Got a couple short guys that make us look a little better out there on the field. But, we even got, Bronson Olival behind us, Matara Brown behind us, helping us get set up and all that. But, I feel really confident in our front seven because we're coming down and, filling those gaps, and our backers are fitting fast and getting those double teams off us so we can make plays as well.
I think Bryson kind of has already said this, but to those Aggie fans, the locals, those who maybe can get there within a short drive, we've already kind of illustrated there's been some mystery about this team. But why should they take a chance on this team this year? Why should they get excited about this season?
Honestly, we have the head man up there, Bronco. That should be a big reason to be excited about. But honestly, I feel like it's just a brand new team. We're coming in there with a brand new mindset, brand new culture, and we work hard. You know what I'm saying? And just, I would be excited just to come watch us be out there and come wreak havoc.
Yeah, I got kind of on that point, like defensively, Bronco's a defensive guy. And so, like, defensively, culturally different. And then offensively, we got a man who's leading the charge of the offensive coordinator spot that has won the Mountain West multiple times and has had a lot of success at his previous stints. And he's played in the Mountain West before. He's won the Mountain West. He knows how the Mountain West operates, and now he's the OC. He has a history of winning in this conference, and we've got him here at Utah State now.
We had two New Mexico guys earlier. They're big fans of Bronco. Now he's here. Mm-hmm. But they said the same thing you probably say. We've never been through the work he put us through, but he told us that's the way it's going to be, and that's how you win.
Yep. So, honestly, you work hard, you're going to, we're trying to play harder than the opponent and longer than them. So, obviously, all that off-season work is, for that and to go out there and, put our opponents to rest, honestly.
Last question for me. And I know you guys haven't been part of this team, or perhaps its history for too long, but this is the last season for Utah State in the Mountain West. Mm-hmm. Big changes on the horizon with conference realignment, but some of the teams that you guys face this year, the Aggies will face again with the new look Pac-12. But what would you say just about this year in the Mountain West and kind of how this season could look in its last opportunity in the Mountain West?
Yeah, no, it is kind of a great opportunity to be a part of the Mountain West, and obviously, like you just said, the new horizon that's for Utah State, and definitely want to leave the Mountain West with a bang. And I feel like we've added the pieces, we've made the right steps, and we're trending in the right direction to be able to make that happen.
Well, good luck to you guys. Nice to talk to you here. We'll see you a lot now in the future as we get practices going and so forth.
Yes, sir.
All good. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yes,
Best
sir.
of luck this summer.
Appreciate it.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on into the Full Court Press. We're actually transitioning our live stream for the Mountain West Media Days, which will still be open and will still continue, but we're also multi-purposing it here as we've got the Full Court Press rolling on in Logan on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, streaming on 1069thefan.com and on the 1069 The Fan mobile app. And apologies for yesterday's show. We put together a great show. Man, it was going to break records and be historic. And, man, we broke news and really big stuff that happened, and y'all missed it. Actually, it really wasn't that important. It really wasn't that great. But we did have some weird technical issues, and we apologize for that. Ajay and I put together our preseason predictions for how we thought the Mountain West Conference preseason poll would look. And I'll just say mine was a lot closer than his, but he got some things right too. But we're live in Las Vegas. I get to hang out with Craig Hislop today. I've been sitting by his side all day, which has been a treat. I don't know if he can say the same for his position by me, but I'll take it.
I'm a little uncomfortable here because I never venture into FM radio.
You know you're on FM radio every day.
Well, okay. But to me, it's AM radio.
That's true.
Being used by somebody else.
Well, we're on AM radio, too. We're like buddies. We're like twins.
Don't confuse me with the facts.
It's been a long day. We've had a lot of different athletes coming through and spending time with us. If you've missed any part of it or if you want to go back and see the interviews that we've done, it's all available on YouTube, CV Daily Sports. And you can just scroll back to different points in time and find those interviews as we've had a chance to visit with the teams that Utah State will be facing this year on their schedule, home or away. That was our focus. We wanted to talk to the opponents of the Aggies and get a feel for who the Aggies will be facing this year in conference play. And just a few minutes ago, we had the opportunity to visit with Bryson Barnes and Gabe Iniguez from the Utah State Aggies as well. So that was fun to get to visit with them and certainly feel their enthusiasm for this upcoming season. As I told them, this is this Aggie football team has a lot of mystery about it. They're actually excited about it. They're selling me on how exciting this offense and defense could be.
They went right up to the edge of telling us something, and then when I asked them, okay then, because we don't know anything through spring drills or anything like that, really, do we? Depth charts and so forth.
No.
Okay, so I said to Bryson, would you just give me the first 10 plays against UTEP? I'd be happy about that. He wouldn't even do that.
He wouldn't do that. No. So for those, if you haven't seen it yet, the preseason predicted order of finish is out for the Mountain West. Boise State with 35 first-place votes, coming in at number 1. UNLV at number 2. They got 4 first-place votes. This was not a unanimous selection for the Broncos. San Jose State at number 3. And this is a team that is a solid program, the building here. Ken Niumatalolo taking the helm after Coach Brennan kind of revived San Jose State, made them a respectable program after they were a doormat for forever. It's clear that his coaching style is translating, and he doesn't have to be just an option coach at a service academy. He can do things pretty well. And when we talked to their players, they were really excited about Coach Niumatalolo and what he's been doing there.
And I mentioned to them, and I don't know if we'll hear it in the recorded interviews we do, but he has a half a dozen maybe former Aggie players or assistant coaches on that staff. I think he carried over a couple of them from Coach Brennan's staff, and it's like their coach said, we know because he's watching everything. He doesn't say any much during the practice. He's watching everything. And then we find out later that he saw a lot of stuff. But he's got guys from Utah State that played for the Aggies, some of them during Gary Anderson's era when we were reviving football at Utah State. So it was really fun to talk to those guys, and I'm looking forward to talking to Coach tomorrow, Coach Ken.
Yeah, that should be a lot of fun. So San Jose State coming in at number 3, Colorado State at number 4. They've returning head coach, returning starting quarterback, I believe their coordinators are the same. Those are usually good recipes for a team that should be pretty good. But Colorado State coming in at number 4 on the list, followed by Fresno State and then Air Force. I think Air Force will be a team that will be interesting to watch because they're not – if they have a down year, it doesn't spill over to consecutive years. Usually they're a very good team, very solid program that can compete at a high level. And I would suspect Air Force is going to bounce back and be really tough to beat.
Yeah, I just think that's the modus of Troy Calhoun. He learned a lot in his time as an assistant coach. He went off to the NFL for a while and then has come back. And we had somebody tell us today he's had so many offers in NFL jobs. They told us one job I couldn't even believe he was offered a couple of years ago as a head coach in the NFL, but he stayed there, and he'll probably break the record of his mentor, the guy that taught him everything and then turned the program over to him. So Air Force is in 6th. Colorado State, as you said, Coach Norvell there at Colorado State is one of my favorites because he is so accommodating during interviews. And I feel like he's telling us a little bit about his program without giving too much away. So, and then the second half of the standings, I guess, is led out by either Air Force or Hawaii. San Diego State is 8th. The Aggies in 9th now. And then Wyoming, New Mexico, and Nevada bringing out the final 3.
We're surprised to see Utah State coming in at number 9. Is that about where you suspected they might land?
Probably, given what's happened recently. And I'm starting to compare them to Coach Bronco's last year New Mexico team. They were probably lower than that. I don't know, in the preseason of 2024. But I think and they were playing, by the end of it, they were playing for bowl eligibility and lost the game at the end. But I think the Aggies, we're hoping they can be in a position to do that as well. By the end of the year, be in a position to win a game to go to a bowl.
I'm not surprised that people put Utah State at 9. I don't see Utah State being that low. And part of the reason is that look at Utah State's team last year. Huge disruption before fall camp gets underway. You got a rookie head coach, nice guy. I think he really meant well, but there were some times where he was just in over his head in a few situations. But this was a team that was close to being bowl eligible last year. I mean, if things go a different way at Temple, Aggies are going bowling. And Utah State was not that far away from having 7 wins last year. So you take a team that was, with all the disruption, all the chaos that happened last year, and have some stability of the coaching staff, have some stability with play calling, people who are like, I know this is going to be my job for months, not just all of a sudden thrown on me with weeks to prepare to be a coordinator and calling the shots. Having that in place with the roster that's there, at least the guys that we know who are coming back, this is going to be a team that's going to surprise people, and they will not finish as the 9th best team in the Mountain West. When the season is all said and done, this will not be the final rankings for this conference.
I always look, and I think a lot of people do, okay, let's start with the quarterback position. Do you have an experienced guy? And do we have an experienced guy in Bryson Barnes? So that's a plus. And talking to him, you get a little more confidence because he's been through it. And you know what? He can run the ball, and he can throw the ball.
You can always extend the play.
We just don't want him getting hurt in between the two.
No. Yeah, he can always extend the play. He can always keep things open. But the question for Bryson and his development as a quarterback, how efficient can he be throwing the ball? Right? How on time can he be? How well can he get the ball into tight windows? We know he's athletic. We know he can extend a play. He can scramble, and he's a gamer, and he's got a big heart and a big attitude, and he won't back down. But can he improve as a player in the throwing game, right? And I think that was some of the knock against him last year. Spencer Petras, I always stood behind this, that Spencer Petras was the quarterback that would put the Aggies in a better position to win games because of his arm. Bryson could help the Aggies extend plays and extend drives with his legs, but I just didn't think he was quite as efficient throwing the ball. So, this has been an important offseason for him, and it's as clear as probably it's ever been in his collegiate career that he's going to be a starting quarterback with a big on-ramp, knowing the pressure is on him. The opportunity is there for him to be the starter and to be the main guy.
Yeah, and he's been through a lot. I asked him, there's no way you could have expected or mapped out how your career's unfolded from the time that you got to the University of Utah, how many years ago? But he's been in some important spots with the Aggies and also with Coach Whittingham when other things happen to their quarterbacks, and he hasn't always succeeded, but he's had some success, and we need him to do more of that without Petras around.
Right, and so that is a bit of a question for Utah State. If Bryson gets hurt, who's the number two? Who's the backup quarterback? What's the depth look like at the quarterback position? I think there's some interesting candidates there, but we didn't see him in spring. I can't tell you who's a front runner. If it's one of the new freshmen, one of the new guys, if it's Garcia, the transfer, if it's any of the guys who were here last year who were deep on the depth chart, if they've made those improvements to move into that spot. I don't know. It's just one of the many mysteries of Utah State's upcoming football season. But I think that there's going to be good running backs. I think there are going to be some pretty interesting wide receivers. We got really good experience from the tight ends. Some things changing a little bit with that offensive line. But the offense, I feel pretty good about for Utah State. I think this is a team that can get up and down the field and find the end zone.
I gave the Nevada guys, they're picked 12th of 12 teams, the two athletes that came to talk to us, a bad couple of minutes because we lost Herschel Turner, a really solid young freshman last year, to them in the portal, and they're really excited. They keep forgetting that he's only a sophomore now.
Yeah.
And apparently he's the starter for Nevada. And I don't know if that's saying much because I don't know how good they're really going to be. Are they going to be 12th or 10th or what? Coach Choate, who used to be an Aggie graduate assistant back in the day, almost 20 years ago, maybe more. He's the head coach now at Nevada.
Yeah, there's a lot of different interesting Aggie connections throughout the coaching staffs, throughout the Mountain West Conference. It's been fun talking to some of these players about some of those connections, or trips that they've made to Logan, games they've played on Merlin Olsen Field in the past, some in bad weather, some with bad fans behind them. That doesn't sound like anything too egregious, but fans giving them a hard time.
Isn't that interesting that was the same comment from two or three of the guys that have played on Merlin Olsen Field about the students, because we have now put the visiting team right in front of the students and live with it because the herd's there to give you a bad time.
Right. Was it San Jose? They're talking about how all these students behind him were shirtless and it was cold, and he's like, those guys are going to get sick. He was concerned about them catching a cold, but not so much about what they may have been saying to him. But it's exciting to see. This time of year it's fun because it's that we're in summer. It's kind of the slow time of the year for most sports, but these events, these media days, these are those moments where it's like, okay, football it's close. It's right around the corner. College football, their fall camps will be starting soon. High school football is just a few weeks away. We are like a month away from high school football. Their first games are on August 15th. We're literally 4 weeks away from the start of football, watching games. So it's coming around the corner really fast, Craig, which is fun. It's a great time of the year.
Absolutely. It's a little darker for us right now about the Aggies because, and a lot of coaches did this during the off season and during spring. They just didn't open practices. A lot of them didn't have spring games, and so that we know a little bit less, but so do other people and other coaches that might have wanted to poach the Aggies for just looking at the spring game film. There's a lot of reasons it's going to be that way. I'm just anxious now. Okay, spill a little more information to us, and I'm sure tomorrow when we talk to Coach Mendenhall that will be flowing.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah. No, I wish. It would be great. But no, it's you're right to point out. While we've been frustrated, understandably frustrated that we couldn't see more, but he wasn't the only one to do that.
No.
There were a lot of programs around the country who decided that they were going to close out their spring practices and keep things under wraps because there's an active spring transfer portal. They didn't want a lot of information out there and provide a showcase for somebody else to come and steal their players.
The first one I heard doing that was Nebraska, and then everybody seemed to fall into place, and we didn't learn much about Nebraska either during the offseason.
That's very true. It is very true. Well, one of the fun things that we get to do in the middle of doing this Full Court Press live show is be able to transition to do some live interviews in the middle of our show. And we've talked to a lot of different student athletes over the course of the day today. We've got a few more interviews that are still available in the hopper, part of the schedule for the day. And one of those is an opportunity to speak with UNLV and their football players. And we get a few of them joining us now and getting to hang out with us. Guys, thanks for coming over and spending time with us. We got D'Angelo Irvin and Jake Pope. Guys, thanks for spending some time with us today.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. The story for us, we think, is Dan Mullen, first of all, because of his background. First at Utah as an assistant when he came out 20-some years ago, and then took over at Mississippi State and then Florida, and then went into retirement. Now he's been on TV a lot. I would have hired the guy in a minute if I knew that he really wanted to come back to coach.
Oh, yeah.
But first of all, offensively, D'Angelo, tell us how things are developing there. Is it true that he is going to continue to be the quarterback coach even as the head coach, or is that something I got incorrect?
The quarterback spends most of their time with Coach Dennis.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Just talk about the offense all the way around with the new coaching staff and so forth.
Since last year, obviously, we were our offensive coordinator was Coach Marion, and he obviously had a different, unique type of offense. And we've had to adjust, but it's nothing different. We're not as fast paced, kind of slowing it down a little more. And yeah, I'm liking how it's going so far.
With the transition, I mean, this is a program that UNLV has kind of struggled a little bit in the past, but Coach Odom really revived things. It's part of his leadership. The players that he's bringing in seems to be a lot more buy-in in the community. Just what's that feeling been like as a player? Just kind of watch that progression happen and know that, gosh, we've been so close to being able to be Mountain West title, contenders, but just to have that championship within grasp. And just seeing that progression change happen really fast, really.
Yeah, it's made me very proud, honestly, since my last couple years here. We've done things that a lot of UNLV teams haven't done before, and it also just makes us hungry, hungry to take that next step and become the best team in the conference.
And for you, Jake, just what you've kind of observed and kind of the change in what's been kind of that momentum that's been building for UNLV?
I just think it's about, fixing the small, fine-tuned things this year. They've had a great team the past 2 years. Obviously I wasn't here, but I did watch them. And, we just brought in a great coach and Coach Mullen and a lot of great players. And I think if we just do things right each and every day and continue to trend upwards towards, the end of the season, then we'll peak at the right time and, we'll win the championship this year and have a chance to play at the playoffs.
A little bit more about your background, Jake. You came to us from Alabama and Georgia, or vice versa. I don't know the direction, and now you're at UNLV. What happened there? Did you not get the chance you thought you deserved?
Yeah, I'm never disloyal to my team. But when I've done everything I can on my end, and I've made the plays that are necessary to make to be able to play, and sometimes you just feel like it's still not, you're not getting pushed by your coaches to reach your goals that you've had since you were 5. And that's been the basis of any decision I've made to leave the school. and that's why I'm here right now to get an opportunity.
You were a 4-star recruit out of Buford, Georgia, so I guess you went into the portal, and now you're in Las Vegas.
I am. And I love it. I love it. It's a little different from Georgia, though. It's a little different from Georgia, city-wise. You know, Georgia and Alabama have always been a college town to me, but this is different. But I'm super glad to be here, and I'm glad Coach Mullen called me.
D'Angelo, let me ask you. Just they've got you listed wide receiver, kick returner, punt returner. It's like you do it all extraordinaire. But you're following in the footsteps of another really dynamic returner. I mean, what did you kind of observe with some of the other guys that have done some pretty dynamic things at UNLV and how that can be a real weapon in the return specialist particularly?
Yeah, these past 2 years I've been behind a great guy in Jacob DeJesus, and he's showed me a lot of things. You know, we practice together every day. We kind of going together to every drill, everything, and we kind of grew together. And you know, the things I've learned from him are things that have created a better player myself, honestly.
Does it look like Jaden Thomas is the guy at running back?
I think he'll definitely be a key piece to our team. As to who's going to be the guy, we'll see in the future, but he's a great player for sure.
You have been known in your competitive – I think you must have been a quarterback at some point.
Yes, sir.
To throw the ball. I mean, you're a receiver and whatever. I think you threw a ball. Was it the Houston game?
Yes, sir.
How'd that work out?
Our OC and everybody knew that I used to play quarterback in high school. So, you know, they just thought, why don't we just throw in a little package right here, have a little trick play, and see what we can do with it.
What gives you the most excitement as a player? Being able to pull out kind of a trick play like that, to surprise people, throw something, a unique wrinkle, or having a return that gets everybody excited, catching a great pass and getting down the field. What are some of the things that, from you as a player at this level, has been the most fun and most exciting for you?
The most fun things are definitely just any time I get the ball in my hands. Because anytime I get the ball in my hands, I try to make something happen with it. I try to create an explosive play or, you know, just feed off of anybody else's, like have people feed off my energy.
And I guess it's a little bit different from a defensive standpoint, but same question for you, Jake. Just what are some of the things on the field that are the most exciting for you to be able to perform?
Honestly, just going out there and playing for my brothers, being able to, you know, force a turnover, or, you know, force a fumble, or just make a big play out there and being able to celebrate with my teammates. I'm looking forward most to in Allegiant Stadium.
What's the position you'll play specifically?
I'll be playing safety, high safety, like field safety. But, you know, I moved down to nickel here and there as well and play some of that. You know, I can play boundary. I played boundary safety my past 3 years, so field's a little new to me, but you know, it's the same. And I just like being able to be versatile on the field.
You have 2 years left there?
I do. Yes, sir.
D'Angelo, Utah State has the opportunity to come here to Las Vegas in middle of November, on November 15th. It's in Allegiant Stadium. It's a beautiful stadium. It's an NFL stadium. But over the last few years, would you describe it as feeling like more like it's your stadium, or does it still feel like you're playing in the Raiders stadium?
Yeah, it definitely feels like recently it's become more of a home for us. We've started our attendance has grown, and there's been more buzz around the football program. So I definitely think it's becoming a home for us.
And how would you describe that atmosphere for any Aggie fans who may be traveling to the game, making the trip down to Las Vegas to watch that one? What's it like having a game in Allegiant Stadium and with that UNLV crowd?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Everybody has a lot of energy. Everybody's turned up, and we're just here to entertain all the fans.
You changed your number.
Yes, sir.
Why'd you do that?
I just feel like with a lot of college football teams now, you know, the single digits are most of the time they're some of the more important players on the team that contribute the most.
So you went from 10 to 4.
Yes, sir.
All right. So we just wanted to make sure so we can recognize when we see you out there.
I got you.
Exactly.
Does that number have significance to you?
Not much. Not on a personal level, no, sir.
And we kind of touched on him a little bit, but circling back with Coach Dan Mullen, just there's been certainly there was a lot of excitement about bringing him into this position, somebody who had a national reputation, with what he did coaching-wise, but also as a television analyst and a coaching analyst. But then getting back into coaching from the outside, maybe a little bit of not concern, but wonder. If somebody who's been out of the game, how sharp can they be? Or have you observed to see step for day one right into it, or is it kind of taken just a little bit and he's back to where he ought to be?
He came in and started doing his thing. He's been doing it for so long. It's like if I were to stop playing Call of Duty for a year, I can come back on and still drop 70 kills. But no, he's great. He came in guns blazing, ready to work. First team meeting, he imposed a standard on us and what the culture needs to be like for the team, and kind of talked about some of his past experiences as a coach. And I think as long as he keeps sharing those things with us and, we understand it as a team, then we're going to be just fine. Yeah, there was no holdback with him. He was ready to go right when he got here.
He was itching to get back into the saddle, sounds like.
Yep. Exactly.
Well, guys, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We look forward to seeing Utah State take on UNLV in mid-November, and best of luck the rest of the day, and best of luck next season.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
All right, we'll take a quick timeout here on the Full Court Press here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen and special guest Craig Hislop.
On FM radio.
That's right. And streaming and on the mobile app and on our podcasts and on Cache Valley Daily. CV Daily Sports on YouTube, I should say. we'll get the stream link figured out on Cache Valley Daily before too long. But hey, we're talking about Utah State and Mountain West football media days. It was fun talking to some UNLV players, D'Angelo Irving Jr. and Jake Pope, and we've had just that was an example of what we've been doing all day today, having different players come in and be a part of our broadcasts on our stream. If you've missed any part of it, you can find it on YouTube, CV Daily Sports, and we've got the live stream going there, and you can always back it up and find things specific to what you'd like. Try to find different interviews that we've done throughout the day. But besides the rankings of the teams for this time of the year, they also released the Mountain West preseason all-conference team, and there are a lot of Boise State names on this list. Craig, what was it? 10 total that we counted up?
10, 12, something like that. I'd like to start with the Aggie list. So at defensive back, Ike Larson, the senior from Utah State, he's on the defensive team. That's it.
That's it.
Unfortunately.
But good for him, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, he deserves it.
I mean, it's that takes into account his entire body of work. Last year, statistically a little bit down compared to years previous. But here's a hard worker who has been very loyal to Utah State, who has an opportunity to continue to expound on that and improve upon that. There's been some recruiting and transfers coming in at that similar position. But Ike is still the anchor of that defensive backfield for Utah State.
Yeah, and we're going to find out who the others are, because we're using that excuse that we didn't get to see practices or talk to the coaches much in the spring. We didn't have a spring game. So
no spring game, no. Nope. Yeah, so that mystery, we'll still keep playing that card. The mystery remains. But this is a great recognition for Ike, but the only Utah State player, they only have one team for the preseason. In the postseason, they'll do a first, a second. They do a third? I think they do a third, and then they do an honorable mention. So I would suspect by the end of the year we're going to see many more Aggie names on these lists. But not that I shouldn't be surprised, but I honestly was a little surprised to see Ike Larson listed on the first team. Just because we've seen some other publications, Phil Steele, Athlon Sports, they did not give Utah State any first-team opportunities or positions.
Yeah, I know you guys on your show will give something like a list of 25 players. Let's put them in order, or at least this is how I think they're going to figure in. I don't know how you do that. At least it's more difficult of a challenge now this year.
This year, and I'm still waiting from your 25.
It'll be a while.
But this year, maybe this will help you, because we said it's going to be really hard for us to rank them just because there's so much unknown. So we just need 25. Who are the 25 players you think are going to be the most impactful, the most important? I don't need them in any particular order. I just need 25.
I'll just do them alphabetically then.
So we will do that over the course of the summer. We'll reveal a different name, and don't pay too much attention to the order, because we'll just discuss who they are and their impacts. But that is something that we will do. But it's going to be hard to rank these players. But if you were to rank them, I would certainly think Ike Larson would be up pretty high on the list as the most important, impactful players coming to this 2025 season for Utah State.
And as we went through the day here today, and they brought to us 2 athletes from each school at least, and we were real concerned about the ones the Aggies are playing, and we got to talk to everybody except one guy, and I'm not bothered by this, but it's an offensive lineman who was a second-team All-American last year for Boise State. He's probably on the preseason All-American team. I'm looking at it right now for the conference. Cage Casey.
Yes.
Over 300-pounder at Boise State, and he'll probably be in the NFL next year. No, he's got 2 years. But anyway, we didn't get to talk to him. I was looking forward to that.
I know. Super sad. Unfortunate. But it's okay. Well, I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to make up for that at some other point. But yeah, as we've talked before, as we're doing this, opportunities to do things, live and in real time. Besides us just talking about how we feel about things, we have to also have an opportunity to visit with important decision makers, and we'll do that here in just a minute. We'll take a quick timeout here on the Full Court Press. And, the opportunity to talk to the College Football Playoff Executive Director, Rich Clark, who's been here at Mountain West Media Days. After this 3-minute timeout, we'll be right back on the Full Court Press. All right, welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Craig Hislop, and we're hanging out at the Mountain West Football Media Days, also streaming on CV Daily Sports. And special opportunity to visit with Rich Clark. He is the Executive Director of the College Football Playoff. Thank you for spending some time with us today.
Oh, thank you, Eric. I appreciate the opportunity. It's good to be here with you and Craig.
When we heard that you were going to be here, and well, actually, a couple of years ago, I was a little bit familiar with your background when they named you, or you were talking to the superintendent of, as the executive director of the playoff. Rich Clark, 2 years that you were chosen, you serve in this position, 4 years as a linebacker for the Air Force Academy football team.
I actually played linebacker 3 years, and then I played nose guard my senior year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a switch.
Wow is right.
That is a big difference.
I loved it, though. At first, I was like, oh, my gosh, kind of like I am in this job. Then I grew into it, and I thought, you know what, this is pretty good. So it's a similar experience.
So a graduate of the Academy in 1986, you became the superintendent of the school.
I did. Imagine that. That was a shock to most of my classmates. They were like, why'd they pick you? I don't know. Here I am.
Were you a contemporary of Randy Spetman? Was he ahead of you?
Oh, well, he was in between because I was the commandant there 2010 to 12, and Coach Spetman was there. We were never overlapped, but I knew him well. Great man.
Eventually became an athletic director at
Yes.
Utah State.
Yeah,
for a
yeah,
certain period of-
absolutely. He's fantastic.
The reason I bring all this up is that's when I thought this is the perfect guy for this job. And, there's a lot of people on that, I guess there's a committee
Right.
For college football playoff. Can you give us just a background of how that thing works, and then we'll talk about what the future might hold?
So you mean the selection committee?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, the selection committee is one aspect of our job, and that's how we pick the teams that are going to go into the playoff. 13 members, 5 of them are sitting athletic directors, and they are appointed by the conference commissioners, and then 8 of them are at-large members, and they're former coaches, former players, journalists, different people, different perspective, and they all come together, and they meet the last 5 regular season weeks of the season, and then they meet right after the conference championship weekend. They rank 1 to 25 best teams in college football, and then those are the teams that we choose, the 12, the top 5 conference champions, and then the 7 at-large teams that go into the playoff. They do a fantastic job. They watch a lot of games every weekend. I mean, I would say between 15 and 25 games that they're watching. They get film. We issue them an iPad. They can watch different cuts of the games. Some of the coaches watch the whole. I mean, they won't sleep for like 4 days because they want to watch every aspect of the game. Some of the athletic directors are watching what they need to watch, So it's a very different thing, but they all bring their perspective. They vote, and we get 1 to 25. That's how it goes. But it's a great group, great integrity. They leave their egos at the door. They have amazing discussions. Sometimes I'm listening to them. I'm going, I can't believe I'm in here talking about this. But they are really a fantastic group of people.
How would you assess just how this last year went, where it expanded in its first year? Certainly anytime you make a change, there's some things could be well-intended, and then you realize maybe there's some unintended consequences. But overall, how would you assess how that first year and then expanded playoff and how it worked?
Overall, I thought it went very well. Fans loved it. The student athletes and the coaches loved it. There were some things that we need to change and that we have actually changed already for next season. The first round was spectacular on campus. I think that was everything that we hoped it would be. Great atmosphere. And the quarterfinals and the semifinals that our bowl partners put on really went well, too. They brought the tradition and really the grandness of college football to those games. And we played our championship game in Atlanta, and at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, it was just amazing. So as far as the presentation of the playoff, I thought it was just awesome. The thing that we need to fix and that we did fix was the seeding of the teams, and that has a big impact right on the bracket. Last year, the top 5 conference champions made it into the playoff, as they will this year. But last year, the top 4 of those 5 received a bye from the first round, so they got to pass on the first round. This year, it will be the top 4 ranked teams, whether they're a conference champion or not, will get the bye. And I think that'll make for a better progression through the bracket. And that was one of those things you mentioned as I'll say sort of an unintended consequence. The commissioners really wanted to honor the conference champions in a big way, but they recognized almost immediately that was something that we needed to adjust. We're still going to honor the conference champions. They're still going to get the top 5 in, but they won't get that bye unless they're ranked in the top 4.
At what point do you start to formulate the year after? In other words,
we're already working on the year after. So you're talking about not next season, but the season after that. We're already working on that format, and that's what a lot of people are talking about right now. Are we going to go to the automatic qualifier type format? Are we going to go to a straight seeding based on ranking format? And it's a big discussion. Even the number is up for discussion right now. Are we going to go with 12, 14, or 16? I will tell you there is pros and cons for all of that. and some people might think that some of those ideas are outlandish. They're actually not. But I think it depends on where you sit, and what really is best for your conference. And the commissioners, their commitment is to their conferences and to really do what's best for their conference. That's what they get paid to do. That's what they're committed to do. And that's what they bring to the table. Then they have a discussion and they bring that all together, and hopefully what they end up with is what's really best for all of college football. And that's the goal.
Gloria Navarro has made it very clear today in her opening statements that she is adamantly opposed to multiple automatic qualifiers.
Right.
So it appears it's 5+11 model that's being discussed is what she would favor. What are the advantages or disadvantages of the 5+11?
Well, I would say the advantages of it are it opens access, and you now have the 5 top conference champions plus 11 at-large teams, and that gives a couple of pathways to any school. You either make it as one of the top 5 highest-ranked conference champions, that's one path, or you make it as an at-large team because of your ranking by the selection committee that we just talked about. That's the other pathway. And so for someone like Commissioner Navarez, who is fantastic, by the way, there's a couple of paths that her conference could actually benefit from. Some of the drawbacks to that, you're relying on a selection committee that is not perfect, right? And it's not perfect because there's human beings involved in it. None of us are perfect. And so you can sort of look at that selection committee process and go, you know what, they're never able to pick the exact right 25 teams in the right order because they're not playing head-to-head games. Some people are purists and they go, the only way you can really know is if teams play head-to-head. When does that happen? That's a hard standard to meet, right? So the committee does the best they can, but rightly so, they're not perfect. And so they think that an automatic qualification system is better because then you can have play-in games where teams play head-to-head. Frankly, that's not perfect either. There's some flaws there, but it at least lets more of the decision be made on the field, and that's the idea there. So there's pros and cons both ways. I think in the end that the commissioners are going to get to the right answer. I think just from a pure access standpoint, though, the 5+11 is probably the best way because it gives access to no kidding who the best teams are. The AQ way allows for more, high-end matchups and head-to-head competition to happen, and then they automatically qualify. But we'll see where the commissioners land.
It's great to have Rich Clark with us. He's the executive director of the College Football Playoff. I think this passed on my phone here a couple of hours ago. I think it was today, and it was Greg Sankey saying, well, the discussions continue.
Yes.
We may have to do another year of what we're doing now.
Yeah, and I think his point's not just another year. This may just end up being the format that we have now because and people – they get a little bit in an uproar. They're going, well, we have to have a decision because next year, we're going into next year soon. I'm like, well, first of all, we're good with this year. We know exactly what this format's going to be. We're going to make a decision, and agreeing to disagree is actually a decision because if they don't agree, then what they're deciding on is sticking with the format that we have right now. And if they can never come to a decision, then this is the format that they're agreeing to. And so he's exactly right. This is what we may end up with if they can't come to some agreement on what's best. I will say, though, that
12's not a bad number.
12 is not bad. The format that we have is not bad. That's why I keep telling people, I'm like, listen, we're not going to – however this goes, we're going to still be good, and the playoff is still going to be a great playoff. I am hopeful, though, that they're able to come to an agreement. 1 December is the deadline. We're hoping that maybe we can get to that agreement sooner or that decision sooner rather than later. But they have some time. There's still some opportunities for us to talk about it, and we're working to get there.
Last question for me is just there's transition, and it seems like this is ongoing. It's one thing that is constant is change.
Yes.
And with some of these schools moving, like Utah State, who we follow closely, moving to the Pac-12, they're still going to be considered a group of 5 or group of 6, it appears right now.
Right.
But how, just from your standpoint, just viewing the college football landscape, what do you see with this new Pac-12 and how it's coming together and where it stands in college football?
Well, I think it's going to be a great conference, once they get it reconstituted and everything gets settled. Just from my perspective, I will be very happy when all of the conferences are settled and reconstituted. And right now it's a little bit awkward, I would say, because we have 2 conferences that are kind of in flux right now. And I think it'll be good to have that all settled down. I think that they'll emerge, as a solid G6 conference is my thought. But stranger things have happened, and I think whatever happens, they're just going to have to earn their way into it. But certainly they're going to have some really great teams within that conference, and it'll be really interesting to see where they land. So Boise State showed that you can get in there and mix it up with anybody, and there's other teams that'll do the same, whether they're in the Mountain West or the new Pac-12 when it comes. They're both going to have teams that can contend for a playoff spot without a doubt. They will both have teams that can be contenders.
I've heard people, maybe the last couple of days, people that have been around maybe the Pac-12 longer than I have, say, well, eventually we're going to get Cal and Stanford back. You think that's possible?
Boy, if I knew that, I'd be making more money than I am now for sure. It's possible, I guess. But it's just hard to say.
Yeah.
It's hard really to say where anything is going to be. 2 years ago, no one ever imagined. Well, I'll say 2.5 years ago, no one ever imagined we'd be where we are now. So there's just it's a dynamic landscape that we're in, and I do hope that at some point we settle down, and if there is more movement that needs to happen, that it happens, and that we can get to a steady state and just play some football, crown a champion, make it in a good playoff, a great playoff, and just love this sport that America is just embracing.
Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us. I know you've had a full day.
Oh, it's been great. I love talking about football. I could do it for years, and I hope I get to. So it's really a blessing to be able to transition out of the Air Force and into this job. Some days I just go, I can't believe this happened to me. How could I be so fortunate? Well, I've been blessed.
Well, thank you for spending some time with us, and let us know more about how things have been going and changes that could still happen. But thanks for spending some time in the Mountain West and visiting with all of us down here, too, in Las Vegas.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having time with me, but also just for what you do for college football and college athletics in general, just elevating it, bringing it to the fans so that they can understand really what's going on, and we just appreciate that. So thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
All right. You guys have a good day.
Richard Clark. Rich Clark, he is the executive director of the College Football Playoff, spending some time down here in Las Vegas at Mountain West Conference Media Days. And Craig, I think our time is due. I think our time is up for the hour, and we will sign off. We'll be back at it again tomorrow as we continue to talk to the coaches who will be in here tomorrow, and they'll be making the rounds, going through and talking to all the different media members, radio stations, TV stations, print media as well, and opportunity to talk to Bronco Mendenhall, among others. And we're excited to hear what he has to say as he gets to preview his team and his upcoming season also. So thanks so much, Craig, for hanging out and filling in for Jason Walker. Sounds like you've done this radio thing before. I think you've got a career ahead of you in radio.
Well, with a pro like you, it's easy.
And thanks again to the student athletes, the players, for spending time with us as well. And also big shout out to Dallin Dacus helping us back in studio. We'll be back at it again tomorrow on the Full Court Press.